You're never going to get in that upper echelon of the elite of income working a 9 to 5. It should be a 9 to 5 gym, your purpose. It makes no fucking sense to me as a man to be working from 18 to 60, then once 60 comes, you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor. That's less than 12% of your life that you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Who wants to enjoy the fruits of their labor, traveling, going on vacation, spending time with their family when they're fucking old and wrinkled? We want to do that now, fellas. Sometimes it's not always about the hard work, fellas. It's not always about the discipline. Sometimes you have to work smart. What vehicle works best for you? This is the best profit margin out of any business model I'm going to give you today. You need to find you who's the best within this specific business model that can teach me, and you need to learn from that person. That is going to speed up the process. As I always say, of course you can learn it yourself. Of course, but it's gonna take you 10 fucking years rather than if you just invested the money to learn for somebody to teach you and you'll be rich in a year. Your time is that valuable. I know you might have to eat ramen noodles, but take that money and invest in your future, bro. It's gonna be worth it. YouTube, what's good? It's your boy Crab. Welcome back to another vid. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for the algorithm. And make sure to follow me on all platforms that I am Crab. Today we got a great one, man. I'm gonna share with you guys the top 5 business models to get rich in 2025, fellas, right? So I speak about a lot about being a 1% man, right? Having a relationship with God, right? Having high character, right? Standing on strong morals and principles, having charisma, having communication skills, understanding how to deal with women, right? But also, one of the most important aspects of becoming a 1% man is the financial standpoint, fellas. And you're never going to maximize your income. You're never going to get in that upper echelon of the elite of income working a 9 to 5. You have to pursue a business in some way, shape, or form. A big component with that is I speak about a lot your purpose, finding your purpose. Why did God put you on this earth? What do you enjoy doing that doesn't feel like work? What do you find love in doing, right? And that's what you need to pursue from the hours of 5 to 9, from the hours of 5 to 8, but before you go to your 9 to 5, right? It should be a 9 to 5 gym, your purpose. That should be your life. Until you are where you want to be in life, fellas. It makes no fucking sense to me as a man to be working from 18 to 60, then once 60 comes, you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor. That's less than 12% of your life that you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Who wants to enjoy the fruits of their labor, traveling, going on vacation, spending time with their family when they're fucking old and wrinkled? We want to do that now, fellas. We want to do that when we're young, when we're thriving, right? When we have the best health. Right? And you cannot get that out of your 9 to 5. I already made a video on how these 9 to 5s do. And if you've been following me, y'all see how they did me, right? So I'm not going to go too much into depth in that, fellas, but this is probably going to be the most value I ever give you in a video. So what we're going to do, man, is I'm going to give you guys the 5 business models I recommend starting in 2025 to get financial freedom, to escape your 9 to 5, to be a 1% man, to find your purpose within. Without further ado, man, let's get right into it. Now, before I go into the specific business models, I want to break down the categories of how I'm going to be breaking down each business model, right? So unitary gain is all that means is, fellas, is how you make money, right? Startup capital, all that means is how much money it costs to start the business, right? Profit margin means how much money are you actually making with this specific business model, not how much revenue you made. Revenue is all the money accumulated. How much money do you get to take home and put in your pocket, right? That's profit margin, right? Demand is just going to be high, medium, and low. It's basically going to be based on what's trending, based on the economy and what's going on today, what demand this business is, like how successful, what's the chances of it being successful. Fulfillment basically means what is needed and the hours you have to consume on a monthly, weekly, daily basis to maintain this business, which can vary depending on each business model I'm going to provide. Deal type basically means, am I getting paid once, or is it reoccurringly? Is it monthly? Is it bi-weekly? So that's very important as well. So I'm going to be breaking down each one of these components, right, with each business model. They're very simple, right? But they're very important on picking out which works best for you. My goal of this video is for you to pick out, okay, Crab broke down his top 5. Which one of these works the best for me? And I need to be dedicating every hour of the day that I'm not working my 9 to 5 and in the gym on figuring out how I can succeed with this business model, right? Sometimes it's not always about the hard work, fellas. It's not always about the discipline. Sometimes you have to work smart. What vehicle works best for you? Right? Everyone's different. Everybody has a different skill set. Everybody has different passions. So you have to find what works best for you. What vehicle works best for you? Right? That's very important, because if you pick the wrong vehicle, you're setting yourself back. So let's get right into it, man. The first business I recommend is e-commerce. What is e-commerce, fellas? E-commerce is basically selling products online. So the unitary gain would just be selling products online. As far as startup costs with e-commerce, on average with the ads, you feel me, your website, buying the inventory and product, it's going to be anywhere between $0 to about $2,000 to start this business. Now let's get into the profit margins. So the profit margins for e-commerce, fellas, is gonna be 15% to 40%, and I'll break down how I got this number, fellas. So this is gonna vary depending on what you're selling online. It could be you're selling a lamp, it could be you're selling a fragrance, it could be you're selling glasses, but for the sake of this example, we're gonna use t-shirts, right? So let's say you're selling t-shirts, right? You sell clothes online and one of the products you have is t-shirts. And you sell this t-shirt for $30, right? But you buy the t-shirt for $8. To ship the t-shirt to your customer, it costs $4. To market and ad to sell that t-shirt, we're gonna do, this is just the average, fellas. Let's say it costs $10 per t-shirt to advertise it on social media, right? So the t-shirt that you sell for $30, it took you $25 to sell it, right? So all you do is that $5, which will be your profit, divided by 30, and then you times that by 100, and that would be a 16% profit margin, right? This can vary depending on your product, but this is just the average profit margin, right? Two additional ways to increase your profit margin is to find a cheaper supplier, right? So there's plenty of, like if you're selling t-shirts, there's plenty of suppliers that sell t-shirts. One supplier, you might be able to get that t-shirt. I mentioned $8 in the example. You might be able to buy that t-shirt for $4. You might be able to buy that t-shirt for $2. Right? You might have to test different materials, right? If you want to maybe downsize on the material to have a higher profit margin, that may be something you can look into, right? So this is something that you can do to increase profit margins as well. One thing you can also do is to not run ads, right? There's some individuals in e-commerce that run 0 Facebook and Instagram ads, bro. They just selling t-shirts off their brand. Like Kim Kardashian, right? She has Skims. She doesn't run any ads. Right? For all of those products, she's selling basically on her Instagram audience that she built, right? So that's a way to definitely increase the profit margins tremendously within e-commerce, right? But that takes some time too, because you have to build your brand. You have to become someone that somebody wants to buy from, right? But if you're starting this in 2025, you're starting this from scratch, you're gonna have to run some type of ads, fellas, with e-commerce. As far as the demand, fellas, the demand is always going to be high for e-commerce, fellas. Everything has shifted, man. Like back in the day, we were buying stuff from Walmart, going to Target all the time, right? Basically relying on physical locations to make the majority of our purchases, man. One of the most successful companies, fellas, is Amazon. And Amazon, all that is the online Walmart and the online Target, buying products online. Right? So the demand for this is extremely high. Like I tell y'all to stay off social media. This is why social media and these companies make so much money, fellas, because people are on these apps all day. Whatever business you have, bro, they're sending their ads to Instagram, right? Instead of commercials like it was back in the day where you watch TV, you see a commercial, you're like, oh, I want to go to Wendy's. Now, Wendy's is using Instagram. Wendy's is using TikTok. Wendy's is using YouTube. You get what I'm saying? So I use Wendy's as an example, but with this specific topic, e-commerce, everybody's online all the time, bro. You test different ads and find your target audience, right? And then just duplicate your target audience, man. You really can make a lot of money with e-commerce. Like the demand is always gonna be high. The internet changed everything regarding this specific business model. And most of them that I'm gonna give you today. As far as fulfillment, there's two types. You got drop shipping and then you got private label. Drop shipping is going to be the best option from a time perspective, right? Because with drop shipping, let's say I'm selling a t-shirt, right? My supplier would send the t-shirt right to my customer, right? So I'm just the middleman. I'm just selling the t-shirt. I got the design. I give the design to whoever's providing my inventory, and the inventory, whether it be in China, Asia, they're sending that product directly to the person who bought it. That's drop shipping. Private label has its pros and cons as well. Private label means it's specifically yours. Like if I was selling a t-shirt and the tag said cry, or I was selling a t-shirt and I wanted the wrapping to be customized with some shit personal to me that my inventory can't do, that only I can do, right? So that means I'm gonna order the t-shirts, right? And then I'm gonna design them my way or add different packaging to sauce up my shipping, right? That would be private. So with that, fellas, you could spend anywhere from, depending on how many customers you got, depending on how many orders you got, man, this can be anywhere from about 20 to 50 hours a month, right? Depending on, you feel me, how often people are buying your products, man. So not that time consuming, a lot better than working 80 hours a fucking month with a 9 to 5 that's gonna fire you. So this is great from a fulfillment standpoint. As far as the deal type, this is DTC, and all that means is it's direct to consumer, bro. So they just going online, buying your product, it goes directly to them. So I think this is good for people who excel in marketing, right? Or who have a passion for like clothing, who have a passion for like jewelry, who have a passion just for products and selling it. I think this is a great business model, right? But one thing you got to keep in mind with this, man, is the first product you might choose might not pop off. You might have to test different products, right? You might spend a lot of money on ads. You have to learn ads. You have to learn retargeting. Right? So there's more than just finding a product and selling it, man. Ads is probably the most important part of this business model. But again, this is a great business model, man. Like Samuel Nuha, I speak about him a lot. This is his business model. All he does is sell products online. I got him and his brother, they 25 years old. They living in Dubai. They millionaires. They retired their parents, all off of this business model. Right? Very simple business model. And if I wasn't doing what I'm doing today, this is probably what I would do. E-commerce. This is a great business model, fellas. All right, fellas, the next business model that we're gonna go into is personal brand. And this is gonna be twofold, right? On the first side of personal brand, we're gonna focus on DP. That's gonna be digital products. And then on the second side, we're gonna focus on coaching, right? Which is like building a community. When I speak about my mentorship, that's what that basically is, fellas. So the unitary game for this, fellas, with digital products is you're just selling a product online. So this could be a course. This could be a document. This could be a recipe. Selling something online that people can buy, right? You put a link in your bio, they buy your course, boom. That's what a digital product is, right? Coaching would more so be that people are paying you, right, to teach them how to do something, right? So like a mentorship. So the startup capital for personal branding is pretty much the same for digital products and coaching. It's gonna be about $0 to $500. Right? All you need is an iPhone, a camera, some basic editing software, and then social media is free. That's all you need, right? Personal branding is much better as from a startup capital standpoint than the previous business model we did with e-commerce, right? Next, we have our profit margin. This is why I love personal branding, bro, because the profit margins are extremely high. So your profit margins for this could be 70 to 98%, man. That means whatever you make, fellas, 70 to 98% of that is coming back to you, and only 30 to 2% of that is going back into the business. So this is a really good profit margin, fellas. This is the best profit margin out of any business model I'm gonna give you today, right? This is one of the reasons I love it. Look, low startup capital, you don't need a lot of money to start, and you're gonna make a whole bunch of fucking money. Right? So let's break down the profit margin for both digital products and the mentorship aspect. So let's start with digital products, right? Let's say you sell a self-improvement ebook for $50. Writing, typing, and creating this ebook, it just cost you a few hours to make it, right? So didn't cost you anything to make it. As far as selling it, you're gonna use a platform. Typically Gumroad is where you sell courses and ebooks. All they take is a $2 transaction fee. And then the marketing, if you run ads, bro, this can vary, but for the sake of the example, let's say you spend $5 on ads. So that means the total cost, fellas, to sell your ebook cost you $7, right? Gumroad and the ads. You sold the self-improvement book for $50, remember? So we're gonna do 50 minus 7, that's $43. We take that 43 divided by 50 times it by 100, 86% profit margin, fellas. Again, this profit margin is crazy, right? You spent 1 hour creating an ebook, right? And you can sell it for the rest of your life. And most of that money is made back. You dig what I'm saying? Now let's do the profit margins for a mentorship, right? So of course, with a mentorship, you have to build an audience. So it's content creation involved. You have to record videos, be consistent with the content, but that doesn't cost you anything, right? The platform that I plan to use for my mentorship is called Skool, Skool, and it's $100 a month, right? So that's just a monthly payment of $100 a month, right? The marketing for my mentorship is free. I don't spend any money on ads or marketing. All of my ads, marketing, and building my audience comes from Instagram and YouTube. Right? Doesn't cost me anything. So let's say that I'm selling my mentorship for $50 a month, fellas, right? I only need 2 customers to break even. Once I have 2 customers, that's covering my monthly payment of $100. So any customer I have after that, anybody that wants to come to my program and pay $50 a month is going straight to my pocket. So let's give an example. Let's say I have 100 people paying me $50 a month. That's $5,000. Remember, I only have to pay $100 a month. I'm profiting $4,900 a month if I have 100 customers. Fellas, that's a 98% profit margin. You can't beat that in business, right? It's top CEOs. Jeff Bezos doesn't have a 98% profit margin, bro. Right? This is an amazing profit margin. This is why it's my favorite out of all of the models I'm giving you today, and which is why I'm doing it, right? One, because of course the startup costs. Two, because I love doing it. And three, the profit margins, bro. Most of the money I'm making is coming to me, right? I don't have to buy more inventory, right? I don't have to pay nobody to do this, pay nobody to do that. All that money is coming to me. You dig what I'm saying? With this, it's very simple to increase profit margins, fellas. If you want to increase profit margins, just increase your price. So instead of $50 a month, charge $75. Instead of $75 a month, charge $100. But whatever you're doing, whatever you're selling in your community, you have to make sure that you're providing tremendous value. Because one thing you also have to keep in mind with this is churn, right? Churn means how long are you keeping your customers? So yeah, I may have made that $4,900 that month, but what if next month 5 people leave my mentorship, right? And then I can't find 5 more to replace them, right? That's called churn. Right. So that's why it's extremely important. And that's a risk with this business model is make sure that whatever you're doing, whatever you're selling, whatever you're teaching, it could be self-improvement. It could be cooking. It could be fitness. It could be how to tie your fucking shoe. Whatever you're doing, make sure you're providing extreme value and you are the best in that field to the point people want to stay in that business as long as possible. They're not staying a month, then leaving. You dig what I'm saying? The demand for this is extremely high. Fellas, again, with the e-commerce, internet has changed everything. Attention is the new currency. If you are knowledgeable in something, people want to learn from you. The best person in my space for what I do, fellas, men's self-improvement, his name is Hamza, right? I'll put him on the screen. Last time I watched a video on it, this dude was making about $68,000 a month off of the mentorship business model, right? Off of the same thing I do, self-improvement. Right? Just helping people with their mindset, with their fitness, with their discipline, with their motivation. Right? That's all he does. He does the same thing I do. Right? He's been doing it for way longer, but that's all he does. Right? And there's a high demand. There's always men that are trying to get better. There's always men that are trying to improve their life. So it doesn't have to be self-improvement, fellas. Maybe you know how to cook. Right? Maybe you know how to breed dogs. Right? Whatever you know how to do, think about it and then monetize that. Create a community around that where you teach people information, right? It's going to vary on your niche, fellas, what you choose to do in your community, in your mentorship. But the demand will always be high, fellas, because attention is the new currency. The fulfillment for both of these is going to be 10 to 30 hours a week. And I'm going to tell you why. Of course, with the digital product, you're just creating the document, creating the course. That could take anywhere from an hour to 5 hours, right? And then it's done. It's over with. But for the mentorship, fellas, depending on what you're doing, you may have to meet weekly and do one-on-ones with your students, right? You may have to do group calls, right? You may have to do onboarding, right? Those are all things you have to take in consideration on a weekly basis, fellas. So this could take anywhere from 10 to 30 hours a month, which again is way better than working 80 hours for your 9 to 5 that's gonna fucking let you go. That's gonna give you a raise when you reach a certain quota, that you're maxed out at a certain income amount, that you only get to enjoy the weekends, that you have to drive to work. I can live in Bali and this business model still works, right? All I need is a Wi-Fi and laptop. That's it, right? So 10 to 30 hours is great. Whether it's the digital product or the mentorship, bro, within personal branding. The deal type is just social media value. That's all it is. You're just leveraging your social media, right, to provide value to a consumer. Me personally, my main platform is YouTube. I'm leveraging YouTube to help men become their best self, right? And if they want to get to their best self faster, if they want to learn looks maxing faster, life maxing faster, fitness and nutrition faster, dating and female nature faster, they join my mentorship and it's going to speed up the process for them. Work with me one-on-one, right? And get way more value than they're getting with my content, right? This is a great business model, fellas. This one in particular, fellas, I never spoke on this before, but with this specific business model, within my mentorship, I'm going to be helping you succeed with this business model. The same way that I'm succeeding, I'm going to teach you exactly how you do it, bro. Exactly how often you should be posting, how to edit, thumbnails, titles, topics, right? All the fulfillment aspects, right? How to plan out your day to excel in a business like this. I'm going to be teaching that, fellas. So in addition to the looks maxing, in addition to the life maxing, in addition to the social media audits, in addition to the dating and female nature, right? In addition to the gym, your nutrition, I'm going to be teaching you how to do this, right? So if you want to learn how to do this and all of that other valuable information, fellas, DM me your first and last name with your email and 1%, and I'll add you to the waiting list, fellas. Once it launches, you'll be the first to know, bro. But I'm very excited to teach y'all this, man. This is my business model, fellas, and this is one of my favorite that I'm going to share with you today. This is perfect for people who have a passion for helping others and who are knowledgeable on one specific topic. Next business model we're going to go into, fellas, is real estate. One of my favorites as well. How personal branding was twofold, that we worked out digital products and the coaching aspect. We're gonna do the same for real estate, fellas. We're gonna focus on flipping versus renting. So we'll put flipping right here, and we'll put renting right here. With flipping, bro, how we make our money is just buy and sell, right? You will buy a house that needs to be fixed up, renovated, and then sell it for more than what you bought it for, right? Renting, you buy and you rent out to tenants. So renting would be like where I'm living now. I live in an apartment now. Somebody built this complex, right? And they have 150 or however many rooms in here. They got people paying month to month, and then eventually he's gonna be in the green. After he pays off what he bought this complex for, all of that monthly income is just going into his pocket, right? So startup capital, this is probably the biggest con with real estate, is the startup capital, right? So with e-commerce, you was only spending up to $2,000. With personal branding, you was spending $500. With this, fellas, you're gonna be spending a lot of money with your startup costs, right? So the startup capital for flipping could be 5K to 20K, and the startup capital for renting could be 10K to 50K. Again, fellas, this is gonna cost you the most capital to start, but it's easy ways to accumulate this money, fellas. With real estate, fellas, one thing you have to keep in mind is these people aren't using their personal income. Sometimes they are, but most of the time they're leveraging their personal credit and their business credit, right? I already made a video on how to maximize your personal credit. Haven't touched on business credit yet. I'll definitely get into that, fellas. But basically, man, you're gonna use OPM, others people's money. You're gonna use somebody else's 20K, somebody else's 50K to start and to fund these businesses, right? But there's different qualifications, there's different requirements to qualify to get this certain income. There's a little bit more work and smarts that go into getting the funding and getting the startup capital for real estate, right? It's not as easy as just asking somebody, hey, can I get 50K? It's a lot that goes into it, fellas. So the profit margins for both of these fellas is gonna be 20 to 30%. That means if I sold something for $100, I profit anywhere between $20 to $30, which is okay. It actually isn't that bad because you're selling something for a higher ticket than the first two business models that we spoke about, right? So you can't sell a t-shirt for $100,000. You can't sell a mentorship for $100,000, right? So let's break down the profit margins for flipping, right? Let's say you buy a home for $100,000, right? And you spend $20,000 on renovations, right? Getting the floors done, getting the counters done, getting the appliances, paying people to do that. You spend $20,000, right? And then you sell it for $150,000, right? So the house that you bought with the renovations cost you $120K, and then you sold it for $150K. So you made $30,000, right? So all you do is the $30,000 divided by $150,000 times 100, and that equals 20%, fellas, right? So that's decent, man. So once you pay back the people that loaned you that money, fellas, you walking away with $30,000, right? So you're definitely gonna make the most money in the least amount of time with this business model, right? Now let's break down the profit margins of renting, right? So let's say you buy an apartment complex for $200,000, right? And you're gonna charge people $1,500 a month to live in it. You gotta take in consideration the mortgage, right? Which can vary, but for this specific example, the mortgage is gonna be $1,000 a month. Then you gotta take into the property management, right? So this can vary, right? But for this example, we're gonna use $150 a month. Then you also got the maintenance, which can vary as well, but for this example, it's gonna be $50 a month. So all of that equals $1,200, right? So that's what it costs to keep your business running on a monthly basis, right? So if we're charging each tenant $1,500 for them to stay, we're profiting $300 a month per tenant. Does that make sense? So you do that 300 divided by 1,500 times 100, and that's how you get your 20% profit margin, right? Now, there are ways to increase your profit margins with real estate, right? Especially with renting. One of them is to increase rent over time. Fellas, this is my first time staying in an apartment, so I'm not accustomed to this. But from what I hear, when you stay in an apartment for 12 months and then you want to renew your lease increases. Right? That's the reason they do that, right? They're trying to have higher profit margins, right? The people that own the complex. Another thing that you can do is invest in renovations to attract higher quality tenants, right? So if you got If you got two complexes, right, one of them is just a complex, but the next one, you spent a little bit more bread, but they got a swimming pool, a sauna, a workout room, you're going to attract people that want to live that lifestyle, that want to have the luxury of living in a place like that, right? So they're going to pay more money, right? Versus over here in the regular complex, they're going to pay that $1,500, but over here they might pay $3K because you got a swimming pool, right? And eventually you're going to break even, right? And all of that is increasing your profit. One last way to increase your profit as far as a renting standpoint is to be better with marketing, right? So sometimes where you lose a lot of money with renting is that you go through a certain amount of time where your apartments are vacant, right? Where nobody's staying there, right? So the $1,500 a month that you charging somebody to stay there, you now have to pay. Right? That's one of the risks within this business as well. And a way to always have somebody in your apartment, right, is just to make sure that your marketing is on point with whatever type of complex you got, right? Always make sure your marketing is on point. Always make sure you're in a decent area. That's a way to always have somebody in that apartment so you're not pulling money out your profit to pay that $1,500 a month. Does that make sense? The demand for both of these is always going to be high, fellas. There's always people that want to buy a home and there's always people that want to rent an apartment, right? Everybody needs a place to live. We're not just in thin air. I wanted to choose 5 business models that all had a high demand, but this one is self-explanatory, fellas. Everyone needs a place to live. So with flipping, there's zero fulfillment, right? Once you sell it, it's out of your hands. There's nothing to fulfill. Once you buy the home, renovate it, and sell it for more, that's the customer. The house is the customer's problem now, right? You take your little profit and you good to go. Right? There's no fulfillment. Now with renting, there's a lot of fulfillment, right? With renting, you could be spending anywhere from 5 to 40 hours a month, fellas. You got to handle lease agreements. You got to handle maintenance requests. You got to handle tenant communications. You got to handle if somebody want to go on a tour, somebody want to apply, right? Those are all things that you got to keep in mind with renting that you're going to have to be doing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, right? So it is going to take some time, anywhere from 5 to 40 hours on average. Could be a little more, could be a little less, right? And what you can do also, you might decrease your profit margin, but you can pay somebody to do this for you. Right? Pay somebody to handle all of the everyday activity with renting. So you're just 100% out of the business, right? Which is going to give you your time back, but at the same time, it's going to decrease your profit, right? So that can be an option for you as well. For flipping, it's just DTC. They buy the home, they go as far as a deal type perspective. For renting, I put LA. It's just a lease agreement, right? So they may commit to a 12-month lease, a 14-month lease, and then they have to pay you that monthly. And if they break it, they have to pay you a certain amount as well. Fellas, but this is a great business model, man. The profit margins aren't as high as the other two, right? And the startup capital is higher, fellas, but especially with flipping, I really like flipping because you walk away with that capital and there's no fulfillment, right? Those are probably my 2 favorite things, right? So you just selling that crib, getting your money, you out. You don't got to worry about tenants. You don't got to worry about doing weekly Zoom calls. You don't got to worry about packaging and shipping your clothes. You just make your money and dip, right? So this is a great business model, especially the flipping aspect, to get into and make quick money, right? And then keep building off that, building off that, building off that. What I see a lot of people do that succeed in real estate, they start out with flipping, right? They flip a couple homes and they invest that money. They leverage that money and their credit to buy rental properties so they get in that passive monthly income. Definitely a great business model, fellas. Next business we got, fellas, is online fitness consulting. One of my favorites as well, fellas, and this is actually something I used to do. So all the unitary gain is, fellas, is that you get people in shape online, just charge them for it, right? Startup capital, gonna be anywhere between $0 and $500. Take into consideration the content aspect, right? So you gotta have a smartphone or you gotta have a camera, right? Then you gotta have a Google admin account, right? How are you emailing your clients? Where can they email you? Right? You got to have a Zoom account. You got to have a Trainerize account. You got to have some type of software that's going to formulate your nutrition, right? So once you take all of those things into consideration, fellas, you got about $500 a month. The profit margin for this business model is 40%. Right? Let's say that you sell fitness coaching on a subscription-based model and people pay you $150 a month to work with you. So the Trainerize cost me $75 a month when I was doing this. The nutrition software cost me $15 a month. And the marketing was free, right? The marketing, I didn't spend any money on ads. People would just see my shit on Instagram, TikTok, and then DM me, or I would DM them, and then we hop on a call and I close the deal, right? So with the Trainerize and the nutrition software shit, it was about $90 a month that I was spending, right? So we're gonna speak in terms, let's say I got one client, right? I got one client that paid me $150, right? And it cost me $90 to fulfill that client, right? So I made a profit of $60. So I take that $60, divided by 150, times it by 100, and that's how I got that 40% profit margin, fellas, right? So this is okay. Again, it's about in the same realm of real estate, but real estate, you're making a lot more money, right? Regardless of the margin, real estate, you're making a lot more money, but with this, it's a lot less risk, right? Again, the startup cost is very low. You did what I'm saying? Like you don't have to worry about the physical aspect of it. Everything is online, right? So to me, this is a lot more easier to start than real estate. This is about just as easy as personal branding and e-commerce. The demand for this is extremely high, similar to real estate. Real estate, I should have put extremely high, but the demand for this is extremely high as well, fellas. One thing you got to understand is that people are always going to get in shape. There's always going to be somebody that needs to lose some weight or gain some weight, period. No matter what, right? And this is something that AI cannot replace. People are gonna need personal help. People are gonna need you to hold their hand and guide them from a nutrition and fitness standpoint to figure out, how can I get in shape? How can I lose weight, right? There's always gonna be somebody that needs to get in shape. Somebody that doesn't know shit about nutrition. Somebody that don't know what the fuck to do in the gym. There's always going to be a person that needs help with that. When I was doing this business model, the fulfillment was about 10 to 30 hours a week. So that would just be me creating the workout plans on Trainerize, me meeting with them weekly on a Zoom call, me creating the nutrition plans weekly. All of that was about 10 to 30 hours a month, fellas, which again is less than 50% of what you're working with a 9 to 5. You're at least working 80 hours with a 9 to 5. I'm working less than half of that, doing something that I love. That's what this is about, fellas. And you're also not capped. Like with the profit margin, I gave an example of one client, fellas. I believe the most clients I had at once was about 13. So I was making about 2 bands a month and only had $90 of fulfillment costs. You did what I'm saying? That's a higher profit margin than the 40%. I just use 40% to do the example of one client, but you can make the profit margin a lot higher depending on how many clients that you have. Deal type is just social media to consumer, right? So you just leverage your content, whether it's informative, motivational, right? Whether it's regarding nutrition, whether it's regarding exercises, whether it's regarding lifestyle. You just leverage your content to get people to be intrigued on how you can help them reach their fitness goals, right? This is a great business model, man. Something I used to do. And something that the only reason I stopped doing, fellas, is because there's so much things outside of fitness and nutrition that I'm passionate about helping people about. So that's why I went with the personal branding aspect. But again, this is a great business model, man. This is probably my second or third favorite out of all of them I'm going to give you today. To me, this is the perfect business model, man. If you made a fitness transformation, like if you was fat and lost some weight, or you was skinny and got jacked, you will make a lot of fucking money, bro. All you got to do is tell people your story. Tell people what you did. Show them what workouts you do. Show them what foods you eat. And then they're going to want to work with you. If you made a physical fitness transformation, this is the best business model, bro. Last and final business model I recommend, fellas, is trading. As far as the unitary gang, you're just buying currency pairs. I'll explain what that means once we get into the profit margin. As far as startup capital, it's going to be $100 to $500. Right? You need an account, some Wi-Fi, and a phone. That's it. And a laptop if you want to, right? That's all you need. Now, the profit margins, it varies, man. Like, depending on the currency pair, it varies. So I really couldn't give you a percentage, right? But I can still break down an example of how it would work. It's very similar to real estate, right? So if I buy $500 worth of a currency pair at $1.10, and then sell it for $1.15, my profit would be $25. This one, to make more money, is very easy. How I gave the example of buying a currency pair that was $500. If I would have bought one that was $500,000, I would have profited a lot more than just that 25 with the 500. Right? So with this, you know, the more you spend, the more you make, but it's a risk. You don't always win. The more you buy for, the more you can make, but it's always a risk with this specific business model. The demand is high, fellas. There's trillions of dollars made every day within trading. The fulfillment, you just open and trade, you know, based on market analysis. And then the deal type is just trading platforms. I definitely got a couple of homies that ran up a bag with trading. Out of all of the 5, this is probably the one I'm the most least educated on. I'm not going to say that I wouldn't do it because I don't know too much about it. I do know the basic information. But I would have to more so dive into, you know, how do you analyze the market analysis, right? How much should you be spending on currency pairs early on, right? What determines if it's a good currency pair, right? So there's certain questions I have regarding this specific business model. So again, this is just to give you a grasp on what avenue sounds the most interesting to you. Like if you're good with numbers, if you're good at marketing analysis, this is a great business model for you. But again, one thing I always tell y'all fellas is you have to invest in your future, right? You need to find you who's the best within this specific business model that can teach me, and you need to learn from that person. That is going to speed up the process. As I always say, of course you can learn it yourself. Of course, but it's gonna take you 10 fucking years rather than if you just invested the money to learn from somebody to teach you and you'll be rich in a year. Your time is that valuable. You don't have 10 years, right? If you're gonna wait 10 years, stick with your fucking 9 to 5. You dig what I'm saying? So invest that money, take that risk. I know things gonna be tight. I know you might miss a rent payment. I know you might fall behind on your credit. I know you might have to eat ramen noodles, but take that money and invest in your future, bro. It's gonna be worth it, right? So these are the top 5 business models to get financially free in 2025, fellas. I really hope this video was valuable, man. I really hope there's at least one of these or maybe 2 of these that you have interest in that you could pursue, fellas, right? And get the fuck out of your 9 to 5. Right? That's the video for today. I love y'all. Peace.